All right, so we've got PTGui. Joost is up next. You guys all know PTGui, right? Yeah. Take it away, Joost.
Thank you. Hello. Well, it's great to be here. I'm going to talk about PTGui, more specifically about new developments in PTGui. Actually, today is a big day for me, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But let me first briefly go back in time. PTGui is 16 years old already. Today it's a complete stitching software, but it started out as just a graphical user interface for panorama tools. Panorama tools, you might remember it's stitching software developed by Helmut Dersch, which was at the time absolutely the best stitching software available, but it was difficult to use. You had to write script files. It was a set of command line tools. So PTGui was created to make it easier to use panorama tools. Well, yeah, you might still remember this. 16 years is a long time ago. This was a state-of-the-art digital camera at the time. The whole idea of doing a gigapixel panorama would have sounded completely insane at that time. Here's a screenshot of an early version of PTGui. And if you're using PTGui today, this will probably look very familiar to you. But even though it looks the same, a lot has changed in the meantime. It started as a Windows-only application. In 2006, a Mac version was released. A year later, two big new features were added: support for HDR panoramas and viewpoint correction. Viewpoint correction allows you to take photos away from the no parallax point. In 2010, two other big new features were added: masking and the detail viewer. And 3 years ago, PTGui got a brand new stitching engine using OpenCL GPU acceleration. And I think it's safe to say that it's still the fastest photo stitching software available at this time. It can do a gigapixel panorama in less than half a minute. So here we are today, and as I said, it's a big day for me because I'm releasing PTGui 11 today. Still unbeaten. Yeah. So I guess this is what you're interested in. But let me answer that second question first. Basically, it comes down to this. There are two kinds of new features in software. You have the features which are easy to add, and you have the features which are difficult to add. The easy ones are just you add a new window, write some code, and bam, you have a new function which adds on to the existing software. But there are also features which might seem very simple from the outside, but require a big architectural change in the underlying code. For example, in PTGui for Mac, it's difficult to open two projects at the same time. If you have PTGui running and you double-click a project file in Finder, you would expect it to open a new window so you can work on the two projects at the same time. But it doesn't work like that because it'll just replace the existing project in the existing window. And the reason for this is that PTGui expects to have only one project file in a running process, in a running PTGui process. And this originates back to 2001 when PTGui was Windows-only software. And on Windows, this is perfectly normal. When you double-click a file, it'll just start a new process. So you get two PTGui processes running two projects at the same time. But on Mac, it just doesn't work that way. On Mac, every application is expected to handle multiple documents within a single process. But fixing this would require an enormous amount of work. This goes deeply in the architecture of the software. So rather than really fixing this, I just added a menu item in the file menu to launch a new process, and you get 2 processes running. And it kind of works, but it's not perfect. It doesn't work like it should. Another one, it's possible, but it's difficult to have portrait and landscape images within a single project. The reason for this is that PTGui characterizes a lens by its horizontal field of view. And once you're rotating an image by 90 degrees, the horizontal field of view becomes the vertical field of view. And this can be a problem if you're taking the nadir photo, because a camera has an orientation sensor which knows in which way the camera is rotated. But once you get down to the nadir, it doesn't know whether it should be in landscape or in portrait. So the camera will just output landscape images. So you have a mix of portrait and landscape images. And this also goes back to the panoramic tool's origins of PTGui. Panoramic tools characterizes lenses by its horizontal field of view. Properly fixing this would require changing this to characterizing a lens by its diagonal field of view or by its focal length. But again, this has enormous impact on every aspect of the software. The stitch has to change, the optimizer has to change, the user interface, the file format will have to change. And that's a lot of work to just solve one minor inconvenience of having to rotate that image by hand. But basically what happened in 2014, I had implemented a lot of those easy features, but the pile of difficult features had kept growing over the years. So what I decided to do in 2014, after releasing PTGui 10, was to take a deep dive and rewrite a big part of the core of PTGui from scratch. And I can show you the result today. So here's PTGui. This might look familiar, but that's because this is PTGui 10. This is PTGui 11. Well, it looks different, but you're probably getting familiar quickly with it. We used to have the horizontal row of tabs here. Those have been moved to the left side. It's now possible to collapse this. So you get as much working space as possible. And to show off the new things, I'll just stitch a panorama for you. These are a set of images I took in Portugal, in Lisbon, in the monastery of São Vicente. It's an HDR set, 3 brackets, taken with a 15mm lens, the Sigma 15mm, on a 5D Mark II. Here's the nadir image. It's rotated by 90 degrees. And it's taken from a significant viewpoint offset, as you can see. I really moved the tripod away and took a tilted down photo. So we need to use viewpoint correction here. Another minor detail is the image numbering now starts at 1 instead of 0. Yeah. Counting from 0 is a perfectly natural thing to do for a software developer, but not to real humans, I guess. Here you see that the landscape images. There's one thing PTGui still needs to know. It's whether the portrait images were taken this way or this way. This is in order to apply any lens shift in the correct direction. So you have to click one of these 2 buttons to let PTGui know. So I took the images with the shutter button up here. Doing HDR is always a bit cumbersome. I only have 7 shots here, but because I took 3 brackets, I have 21 images to manage. And all those images can have control points, so it gets difficult quickly. This has gotten much easier in PTGui 11, 3 times as easy. Because from now on it's treating each bracketed set as only one image. And this goes all throughout the user interface, so you only have to deal with those 7 bracketed sets. If you go to the Source Images tab, you see those 7 images. The thumbnails are exposure fused thumbnails from the original source images. You can expand or collapse this to see the underlying brackets. Automatic lens detection has been improved. PTGui now parses the EXIF data more deeply. It can look into the maker nodes of many cameras. And this way it's able to determine which lens I used, the actual lens model, not only the focal length, but the lens model. So it's able to see I used a Sigma 50mm lens. And PTGui now includes lens profiles for many known fisheye lenses. And it applies them automatically when such an image is loaded. And this has 2 benefits. The control point generator is able to generate better control points if it knows the exact lens distortion, especially close to the edges of the images. So you get more control points spread over the entire image. And for circular fisheye lenses, it's able to set the cropping circle right at the first time. Yeah, I need to use viewpoint correction, as I said, for this image. There used to be a matter of going into advanced mode, go to the optimizer tab, click some checkboxes there. But now you just right-click here, and you select Enable Viewpoint Optimization for this image. The control point generator has been improved as well. It now recognizes that viewpoint correction is used, and it's able to find much better control points for images which were taken significantly away from the parallax point. With viewpoint correction, there's still one thing you need to do. It only works for flat surfaces, so I need to mask everything away here except for the floor surface, and that's something you still have to do by hand. This looks familiar, but something has changed here. You now get image thumbnails for all images. So you don't have to remember the numbers anymore. Let me just add a mask here. Okay. Boom, there's my panorama. Yeah. I think this is perfect. I could have done this in 1 minute, and yeah, it's all running automatically. The panorama editor has been enormously improved as well. First of all, it's now showing an exposure-fused or tone-mapped panorama, so you get real-time preview of tone mapping and exposure fusion. So it's true. It's truly what you see is what you get. It's now using the GPU accelerated stitcher, so it's fast. You can really do this. It's also using high resolution images. It used to be blurry, especially when you're using fisheye images. The panorama used to have a lower resolution than it could have. This was for performance reasons, otherwise it would be unbearably slow. But now that it's able to use the GPU, it's a perfectly sharp anti-aliased panorama. In fact, it's so good now that I had to add a watermark to the panorama editor in the trial version. Otherwise, you could have run it on a 4K screen and grab a screenshot, and you have your panorama. Tone mapping. Adjusting the tone mapping or exposure fusion used to be done in a separate window. You had to go into the menu and open the tone mapping preview window. And you had to wait for a preview to be generated. This can all be done in the panorama editor from now. You can click here. This pop-out menu will go away when you leave it, or you can pin it down here, and then it stays next to the panorama. And you can adjust everything here and see a preview in real time. You can even look in detail in the detail viewer and get an almost preview of the tone mapping, because tone mapping really requires the entire panorama to be generated. But it's a rough preview, at least. What's next? Numeric transform has also been moved here, so you can just do this and see the result instantaneously. You can adjust the projection here, and the little planet. That's all in real time. I guess that's what I want to show. Oh yeah, it's also possible to see the individual blend planes here, if you want. These are the untone mapped, bracketed panoramas. Control points, as I said, with HDR panoramas, it would get complicated quickly because you have 3 bracketed sets, and you have control points between those 3 bracketed sets and other 3 bracketed sets. And if you would want to remove a set of control points somewhere, you would have to really look into all bracketed sets and remove them. But what you see here is the control points for all bracketed sets together. So this is actually between the first 3 images and the second 3 images. It's still possible to see the individual images here by going here, clicking on a thumbnail. You can also do it with a keyboard shortcut, Command Alt up and down. I'm running out of time, I think. It's possible to use multiple lenses in the same project. This is especially great if you're, for example, doing a drone panorama. You have the aerial images and you want to add a sky dome. You can take photos from the ground. You just add a second lens here. This could be a circular 8mm fisheye. So we now have 2 lenses in the project. These are my source images, and I can say, oh, that the first, oh, wait. I can say the first 4 should be the 8mm fisheye, and the second set should be the 16 one. And it's all optimized. Each lens will have its own exposure and vignetting curve. So you can really use, for example, vignetting optimization while adding a real lens image to an equirectangular image, something which wasn't possible before. Yeah, another thing that was fixed. Let me find those images. These kind of images would be a problem for PTGui. This is in the middle of a symmetric scene, and I guess half of the confused users who asked for support was about these kind of images. And PTGui 11 can handle these properly now. You just hit align images and it'll output the panorama without any there are some more things, but it's too much to tell, I think. Just go to ptgui.com/beta. It's available within a few minutes, I think. Actually, there's a timer which enables it at 1 o'clock, so you can all go download it. As always, upgrade is only 45 euros if you have the pro version, or 25 euros if you have the standard version, and even a free upgrade if you purchased in the past 2 years. And there's a free trial. That's it.
So, hello. Yeah, oh my God, there's so many questions. Where do I go first? We go, yeah.
Hi, it's great work for the new version of it.
Thank you.
A quick question, is there anything you do also for ghosting on the images? Is it possible it's still in the software, or you still got to throw to something else?
You mean due to misalignments or moving people?
Exactly.
Yeah, no new features on that in that regard. No. But yeah, sure, in the future.
Did you make provisions for tilt shift lenses?
Yeah, that's already possible for years already.
Okay.
You just have to enable individual shift in the settings in the lens parameters.
But there's a lens profile for the Canon tilt shift?
No, it's not necessary. You just load the images. You just have to tell PTGui that the images have individual shifts, because you're shifting the lens between shots, right?
No, I'm just talking about the standard lens. It's one of the sharpest lenses they make.
Oh, okay, yeah, that should work. Just yeah. No, I only added profiles for fisheye lenses. For rectilinear lenses, there's no issue. It doesn't need to know the exact distortion. It'll just work. But for fisheye lenses, you have hugely different projections. For example, the Madoka lens has a very compressed image near the edges of the fisheye, much more than other lenses. And if you want to generate control points for that lens, it's good if the software knows which lens was used.
You didn't show it, Joost, but I would certainly hope that in the new fused HDR images you can see all the seam lines and you can see all the mask lines. Yeah, because that's always been a problem with HDR.
Yeah, that's... Everything now works for HDR panoramas just like it used to work for. And so this is an HDR 3-bracketed tone-mapped panorama with seam lines and image numbers and everything.
Hi, I'm here. Do you have any plan to manage deghosting in future?
Again, deghosting. Yeah. It's something I would like to solve. And, but at this time, there's nothing new.
Hi, 2 things. First, can we run the beta version and the 10 version at the same time independently?
Yeah. On Windows, you have to select a different folder while you're installing it.
That's not a problem. But
and on Mac, you can drag it from the DMG image to wherever you want and run them next to each other.
Okay, that's the first question. The second question, concerning manual lenses like the Samyang or Rokinon or whatever they call, is that included there?
Yeah. There's a profile
do you include that?
Yeah. If you load an image from, for example, the Samyang, it'll just pop up this window. We enter the focal length. I have the Samyang 7.5, so I enter 7.5.
Okay.
And then you see here a list of lenses matching that focal length. And yeah, here the Sigma stays because it's in the current project. But it could have been the Madoka or the Samyang. Okay. Or if I enter 8mm, you get a lot of 8mm lenses. So these are all included.
Fine. And last, especially when you shoot with Philopod technique, it's very easy to find that control points on the nadir cross the 2 contiguous images.
Yeah.
And this causes unexpected and undue errors that you have to cancel. And this happens sometimes even in other situations.
Yeah.
Is it possible now to define that there is a sequence?
Yeah, it's something I've...
You understand what I mean?
Yeah,
a sequence in order to have not all images control points spreading all around, but only one after the other after the other.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And this is something, it's still on my list, but
It's still on your list.
it would be useful for gigapixels as well, because you only have to look at overlapping images and not for all the images together, of course. But
when you use multiple lenses in the same project, does PTGui find the control points even across the two different lenses?
Yeah.
And
It's still in beta. I wanted to show a demo, but it's not working perfectly yet. But it should work in the end. You can drop in an rectangular, a rectilinear, and a fisheye, and just let it do its work, and it'll find control points between all those images. No. Even a 360-degree rectangular and a 20mm. Well, they have to be reasonably close to each other, maybe. But 1 in 10 should be fine.
If I put a 300mm and an 8mm, I wouldn't expect those to find control points, but...
Yeah, I think it should work, but I haven't tried. But, okay, at a certain point, you're looking for 1 pixel in one image would be 100 pixels in another one, and then it probably won't work anymore. But, yeah. Oh, I have one more thing. I got these as a birthday present last year. It says, I love PTGui, so if you want one. I put them here.
We all love PTGui. Thank you very much, Joost. I'm sure we have a lot more questions, but
just grab me if you want to know something. Yeah. I'll be here till Tuesday. So.
Okay, so we've got 4 days of grabbing Joost for questions. Okay, thank you very much.